This is strange. This is a strange affair.
This is a strange affair, this live streaming malarkey, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
What gives us the right to put on a show that's been lasted for over a year and come on and talk about music to all of our friends? What gives us the right to do that? Strange
What does give us? Actually, we give us the right to
There
do
you
it.
go. There you go. Let me just check that we are all singing and dancing.
We are singing. We are singing from the same folk song sheet.
Indeed. Absolutely. Barry is here. Look at that. They're in collusion with their welcome response.
They are, aren't they? Good afternoon,
Andrew
gents.
and Barry. It is
Good
wonderful
afternoon,
to see
gents.
you. And the other Barry is here as well.
Good afternoon, all. Look at this.
Barry, Andrew, you and I should never be on the same live show because we have the same look going on.
Yes, it's a winner, that one, isn't it?
So this is that album.
This is that album.
And we know, we've just been on a live show and we know that there's lots of people out there that just listen and we get lovely notes from people. Afternoon, it must be raining where Michael is. Madeline Gray is here too. Phenomenal. Don't know if you know Madeline. I'm connected to her. She's one of my best connections.
Yes, no. I hear she's quite somebody to know. But there you
So
go.
have her. Yeah. So this is that album, our weekly album review show where we take an album and we strip it down. We investigate it all. We interrogate it, and we listen with fresh ears. Sometimes we choose an album that both of us used to love, maybe back in the 90s or the 80s, and we listen again with fresh ears. What show is this, Adam?
Is this 54?
54 shows.
Loads.
54
show number loads.
Show number loads. We've done, and this is the way it works for anybody that's not used to the show. Each week, one of us recommend an album for the two of us. Andrew Russell's here, brilliant. For the two of us to go away and dissect and get right into. Last week, the week before, I think it was. In fact, it was the first ever request show we had because
It was, wasn't it?
Yayan Compton suggested we do Graceland by Paul Simon. We've done all the biggies. Dark Side of the Moon. We've done
Rumours.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done Fleetwood Mac. We've done Lenny Kravitz. We've done Muse. We've done Wet Leg. We've done OK Computer by Radiohead.
Gabriel. We've done
Gabriel.
Loads of stuff, haven't we?
So last week was your choice.
Yes.
And you selected. Do you want to just intro your album?
Yeah. So I suggested this from 1980. This is a cut above from June Tabor and Martin Simpson, and this was the album that birthed my love of folk music. Prior to this, it was Fold a Diddle-oid-o and Knit Your Own Sandals and Morris Dancing, and this opened my eyes as to what folk music could be. Now, this was not an album that you were familiar with at all, I believe.
No, I wasn't familiar with the artists, not familiar with the genre, not familiar with the with the album at all. I have taken my folk music leanings from Billy Connolly's sketch about folk music, where he said when he grew up in Glasgow, he got in his teenage years, he was into rock and roll, but there was a big folk circuit. And he remembers that going into these pubs where there was people singing, "I'll never forget that awful night in 1894. There were 700 sailors all dead on the floor." And people were like, more, this is brilliant. And and he said it was all about mining disasters and lifeboat tragedies.
Well, there's a bit of that on this album, isn't there? Let's be honest, yeah.
And then he said when he was in LA, he got a badge, and he said, if I had a hammer, there'd be no more folk singers. So my base starting point was very much with Billy on that, and I listened to the album for the entire week. For the entire week, I've listened to this album.
And
what?
And is this a crisp, tasty panzanella, or is this a bit of a damp lettuce for you?
So you know that I love you, right? I've got major love for you. I've got major love for you. But so I've learned with this show, it's not about, oh, I don't like that. Well, this isn't a genre of music that I would ever get involved. Mulligan no hair. Yeah. I would never get involved with this kind of music. In fact, beyond that, I would actively avoid it. Right? I would actively avoid it. But I thought, let's get into it. Adam likes this. Adam knows a thing or two when it comes to music. So I'm going to give this a good old dressing down. But it didn't really work for me. It's not a sound that, for some reason, is it June Tabor? Is that how you? When June sings, it strikes a chord in my head that makes me want to go and hang myself.
There's some of these songs are not a barrel of laughs.
They're not a barrel of laughs, but she adds another level of depression on it for me. So actually, there's been a few low points this week, and I've had this playing, and I thought, bugger it, let's just go and have a warm bath. So, but musically, I listened, and you cannot fail to be impressed by the musicality. So, what did I pick out of this? Do I love this album? No. Some of the songs, as we'll discuss, actively made me go, I can't do it anymore. I need to. It was a very hard listen.
Oh dear.
It was a very, very challenging week for me. Very challenging. However, this is a music review show, so I reviewed it musically and gave it my best shot. How could you not be impressed by Martin Simpson's guitar playing?
Yeah, how indeed.
How indeed. You seem to be somewhat reticent about this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think to give this some context.
Yes, please do.
Folk music is a different way of delivering art to people.
It is.
So classical music is incredibly refined, and generally speaking, rock and pop is incredibly polished, and this isn't supposed to be that. Although this is very polished as albums
go. You see, it's a different way of delivering art. It's one of the very, very first ways of delivering art, isn't it?
Absolutely. So the purpose of this was to pass on stories from one generation to the next.
Yes.
And as such, it has the power to transport people back to a time of which they have no knowledge.
Yeah.
So and the stories that have been passed on through this mechanism are stories about war, about loss, about tragedy, about bravery, not stories about, I was
going to get me a big Corvette and drive it down the street. Yeah,
exactly. Not that sort of thing. These are proper kind of big issues, and I think that certainly for me, this makes me kind of investigate what was going on behind the songs, what has inspired these songs, and thanks, Jensen. And for me, that's incredibly educational. I remember I was driving along one evening back from wherever it was, quite a long journey in the car, and I had a bit of this sort of thing on, and I basically sort of stopped and just went, now I see it. Now I see what all of this stuff is about. The whole kind of class war struggle thing. Mm-hmm. Because, I grew up in middle class, middle England, and I'm middle-aged. What do I know about losing family down a mine? What do I know about people being swept overboard and being left to feed the sharks because you can't turn back for them when you're rounding the horn? Things like that. And actually those were pivotal moments in developing my thinking about. So this album, June Tabor, Martin Simpson. Have you done research, or do you want me to?
I have.
Fine. Talk to me then. I'm here to learn as well as
done research. Absolutely. So I bracket all of this. So yeah, is this a genre that I love? No. Did I love this album? I struggled with it a lot. It was a tough listen, as Andrew said, for me, because my ear is not tuned into it. But however, the power of the story is not lost on me. And also, I was very respectful of the fact that if it wasn't for music like this, the modern music that we listen to today and that we've listened to for the last 40 years, owes a debt of gratitude. Owes a debt of
No,
gratitude to this and early blues and early skiffle and all of that. So if you take this out of the puzzle and this didn't exist, we probably wouldn't have music like we have today. This is like origin music for me. This is like
yeah.
the origin story. So I'm very respectful of that. A Cut Above is a folk music album by June Tabor and Martin Simpson, released in 1980 on Topic Records. Catalogue number was 12T S4 110.
Right. I should
Yeah,
make a note of
the
that.
album was released on CD on in the UK on Topic Records in 1989 and was released on Green Linnet. I don't know what Green Linnet is in the US in 1992. I'm thinking that might be a record label, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. I thought that might be a folk thing. Like,
No, I don't believe so.
we're producing this on Green Linnet. It sounds folky, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It sounds like something he weaved, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
In
The album was
the old barn. I'd be weaving
yeah.
this.
We'll do this one on Green Linnet. The album was produced by Paul Brown and engineered by John Aycock at Millstream Studios in Cheltenham, and includes a number of songs as well as of traditional songs, as well as songs by Roger Watson, Richard Thompson, Peter Bond, and Bill Caddick. The reception, All Music reviewer Rick Anderson awarded this a 4.5 out of 5. In 2008, BBC's Mike Harding said, "When you get two wonderful musicians together, the end result is not always the sum of the parts. In this case, they obviously pushed each other onto greater things because the end result is magnificent."
Yes, it is. You're quite right.
It was quite right. So what was happening in 1980 when this came out?
So quite a long time ago, Radio Caroline sank. There was the St Paul's riot in Bristol. Alton Towers opened. The Iranian embassy siege with the SAS going in and ending that. Inflation was 21.8%. Insider trading became illegal. The sixpence was withdrawn.
Wow.
The CND rally at Greenham Common. The mini metro launch. John Lennon was shot, and the economy shrank by 4%. Other albums out at this time were Peter Gabriel, Back in Black, Super Trooper, Pretenders, and Sky 2. Films that came out: The Elephant Man, The Long Good Friday, McVicar, Rising Damp, The Shining, Superman 2, and of course that pinnacle of cinematic experience, Silver Dream Racer. And it was the year of birth of Jensen Button, Catherine Jenkins,
Wow.
Darius, who sadly died last year, and the magnificent Angela Rayner, and also died Alfred Hitchcock, Billy Butlin, Hattie Jakes, Peter Sellers, and Oswald Mosley.
Oswald Mosley.
Hi,
Oswald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So quite an interesting year.
I know that Michael doesn't want the knee-length boots. He wants the thigh boots. He does.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want the thigh
Don't
boots?
try and pretend you don't have a pair in black patent leather. We know you do. This album... Sorry? Carry on.
No, sorry, this album. Go on, please.
This album, as I said, came out in 1980 when June was just coming into her own as a solo artist. Check me out, folk specialist. She had made 2 albums with Maddie Pryor of Steel Eye Span in the 70s, both of which were fairly light-hearted collections of English folk songs. On A Cut Above, she's teamed up with the uber guitarist Martin Simpson and begins to show her darker colours that would typify her subsequent work. Admiral Benbow, a sea song with a lovely choral tag at the end, and the cheerfully despairing Flash Company are light enough. But her hair-raising a cappella performance of Number 2 Top Seam, a song about a coal mine explosion. Did I not say mining disasters at the top of this?
Yeah, you did.
Stark, chilling and beautiful, some have said. She also manages to cut Linda Thompson with her rendition of Strange Affair, possibly the saddest, most beautiful of all the sad and beautiful songs written by Linda's ex-husband Richard. Martin Simpson, who is the very soul taste throughout this album. One critic said, Mars' Strange Affair with an ill-advised slide guitar solo, but it's the only mistake that anyone makes on this album.
Yeah. Interesting thing about June Tabor is that she appeared on television in 1968. She was team captain for St Hugh's College, Oxford, and University Challenge.
Oh, wow.
And it was there that she discovered her interest in traditional music. And she says, and I quote, "I have no musical education whatsoever. I just learned the songs and copied the phrasing by playing those records ad nauseum." two records that she liked. I then tried putting the two together and missing a few bits out, and that's approximately what I've been doing ever since. It's also why I don't do singing workshops, because there's not much more I can tell anyone.
I just open my mouth and make a sound.
In 2004, she was named Folk Singer of the Year in Radio 2 Folk Awards. In 2011, she was Ragged Kingdom of hers was named Album of the Year by F Roots. And in 2012, she was Folk Singer of the Year at the BBC Two Folk Awards again. Martin Simpson, by contrast, in the 11 years of the BBC Two Folk Awards, has been nominated 23 times for an award, including 9 times consecutively as Artist of the Year, which he's won twice. Album of the Year in 2008 and Best Original Song of the Year that year as well.
Crikey! So we've got high folk credentials here.
We have indeed.
We have indeed. So shall we crack on? And
yeah, we should. So the first song, and this about the kind of looking at what is going on in the songs. So this is about Vice Admiral John Benbow.
10th of March 1653 to the 4th of November 1702. I think.
Thank you very much indeed. He joined the Navy at the age of 25, and he saw loads of different campaigns and actions. And this is the song about the battle where he was injured and subsequently lost his life as a result of the injuries that he sustained. I think what's interesting is when you listen to the lyrics of this, and it talks about, and I love the kind of spotty bits. Then we saw 10 men of war sailing by, or cruising by.
Look at that. Put that back up. To be honest, lots will think it's finger in the ear kind of stuff. To be honest, I liked it.
I like you, Michael. I like you very much. Thank you. I prefer you to Eric. You can take his place. Man of war ships, check this out. 60 meters long. 124 guns, some at the back, some at the front, 56 on each side, arranged on 3 gun decks. 10 of these things sailing along or cruising along. They typically fired cannonballs between 32 and 42 pounds at 900 miles an hour. So when we think about battles of 200-300 years ago, we tend to think about people clashing with swords, not people using truly hideous weapons. It talks here about the fact that Admiral Benbow was hit by a chain shot, which was basically 2 half cannonballs connected by a bit of cast iron chain, which were used for cutting the masts of ships. Yes, and typically the mast of a tall ship was 3'3" in diameter and made of hardwood, teak, oak, or mahogany. And it would just slice that off. So obviously, if it hit you, it wouldn't do you too much good.
And you think about modern war. So that's ships, wooden ships out there, hurling 40-pound lumps of lead and metal at each other.
At more than the speed of sound.
More than the speed of sound. And then you think about, sadly, modern warfare, which is mostly all technological. It's drones and cyber maps and cyber tracking and all of that, but to eventually get to the point where they chuck big lumps of metal at each other really fast.
Absolutely. So you, as we go from verse to verse on this, you'll probably like the fact that the bass guitar builds on this particular first track.
Oh yeah, I love it. This is Admiral Benbow, track number 1 on A Cut Above.
Sailed from Virginia, London to Fayal, where we watered our ship and then we weighed all. Full in view on the seas, boys, to spy. We managed our capstan and weighed speedily.
I'm just going to bring a wet dog in just to get the smell right, and I'm going to get an old man to fart, and I'm going to drink out of a wooden cup.
It was a brigantine sloop. We asked if the others was as big as they looked, but turning to windward as near as we could lie, we saw there were 10 men of war cruising by. We drew up our squadron in very nice line, and boldly we fought them for full 4 now was time. Let the day being spent, boys, and the night coming on. We let them alone till the very next morn. Now the very next morning the engagement proved hot and brave and
So I didn't get into the mechanics of writers. And is this their song, or is this an old song?
No, this is an old folk song. So this, yeah. So there is a famous cataloguer of folk songs from the early part of last century called Cecil Sharp.
Right.
And he spent all of his time traveling around the countryside, asking performers to perform these songs, and he would notate these songs, and he would get as much history as he could for these songs, and he catalogued all of that. And I've actually got a book of folk songs here, the New Penguin Book of English Folk Songs, and it's kind of
chunky.
A long thing where someone has gone and because these were not written down and they were not obviously able to be recorded 200 years ago, so lots of these were in danger of being lost as culture moves on.
Yeah,
we're not focused in local inns and people are staying at home watching TV. This kind of thing can die out. So Cecil Sharp, and there's a concert hall called Cecil Sharp House in London, which has also got an archive of all of these things that he's collected.
Incredible. And there's actually lots of poetry written about Admiral Benbow, lots of other songs written about Admiral Benbow. Quite
Inspired Vaughan Williams
Yep.
to write a piece on this as well.
they did rattle and the bullets did fly, but brave Admiral Benbow for help would not cry. Take me down to the cockpit, there is ease for the sparks. If the merry men see me, it will sure break their hearts. Now the very next morning, by break of the day, they hoisted their topsails and so bore away. We bore to Port Royal, where the people flocked much to see Admiral Benbow carried to Kingston Church.
I love the diversity of what we play every week on this show.
Yeah.
I love it. You can turn up every week and it'll be something absolutely different. Tell me, Mr. Guitar Man, anything specific we should know about Martin on this particular track, or just in general? Did he play a particular guitar?
He did, yeah. He plays one of those. That one there.
You're joking me.
Made by a guy called Stephen Sabel in Northumbria. And his style, he's famous for frailing the strings, which is basically flicking the strings. So he'll pick some.
You can hear that, right?
And that's not the same as slapping.
Yeah.
But gives a very percussive ringing sound.
As big as they looked, but turning to windward as near as we could.
Standard tuning?
No.
No.
Oh, I don't know on this one, actually. Probably not.
Oh. Next question. Have you tried to play this?
Not a chance. This is so, and the reason that this is so difficult is because he is picking and slapping and flicking the strings and flicking very fast from one to another. And actually, you just need to have such an incredible right-hand technique to pull this off. There's not a chance that I would get it.
So I actually quite enjoyed this opening to the album. Quite enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Quite enjoyed it. The next track is Davy Louston.
Yeah. So, did you see this history behind this?
I didn't. Enlighten us.
Right. So, this is a song about a. So the words are, "My name is Davy Louston. I did seal. I did seal. My name is Davy Louston. I did seal." So he was a seal hunter. So in 1810.
Oh, right. He's actually. I'm a sealer. I'm a seal hunter type chap. That's right.
So
okay.
In 1810, he was on a ship, and they dropped him and the rest of his crew. I mean, his seal hunting crew, to a particular beach on the South Island in New Zealand, and then they sailed off to go to another part of New Zealand to drop off another crew at that beach. And as the ship was sailing away, it was dashed on the rocks and everybody was killed.
Oh,
So now he's in New Zealand, 12,000 miles away from England. There is no distress signal. So he and his crew survive for 3 years until another boat comes by and they're able to flag it down.
can you not just send a WhatsApp?
Well, you'd think that would be a more efficient way of doing it now, wouldn't you?
So this is that very song.
Oh, my name is David Lowstone. I did see, I did see. Oh, my name is David Lowstone. I did see. No, my man and I were lost. Oh, our very lives had cost. We did see. We did see. We did see. We were set down in open bay. We were set down, were set down.
Mikhail says this is timeless brilliance. It is beautiful.
We were set down. We were left weak and men. Never more to say.
Mikhail, if your aim was to get your comments put up for a long time on this show, you're hitting
Yeah,
the right
nailed
note.
it.
More to say. More to say. Our captain, he set sail, he set sail. Yes, for Port Jackson, he set sail. I'll return men without fail, but she found her
How dare you?
again.
He's got a point, though.
Yeah.
And went down, and went down, and went down.
That all for those lyrics. Yes, for Port Jackson, he set sail. I'll return men without fail. But she foundered in the gale and went down, and went down,
Oy.
and went down. I mean, it's just, and it's that kind of, that little bit when you just go, geez, we've got it easy these days, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brackish water, putrid sea, we did all us morning for to die, for to die, for to die.
Thank you, Mark.
Only lads who sail upon the sea, sail the sea. Come early jacks who sail upon the sea. And all the schooner gave the blood, took up some who did not die. Never see. Never see, never see.
So it's interesting that this song and the previous song both finish with an interrupted cadence,
Yeah.
which is where you think, oh, it's
You think they're going into another verse?
Yeah.
The way the piano, the strings, the bass, and Martin Simpson all work together on that. No one's vying for position. Everyone, the bass player, I think, just occasionally just plays one note
Yeah.
But it's perfect, spot on. Loved it. Very good, very good. That was track number 2, Davy Louston. The next track is Flash Company. Love the
Now
guitar.
this is one that I've recorded with Maddie and
You're
posted
talking.
on LinkedIn
So you've done this.
and recorded it. And
Is there
put
any
it on
chance you could
LinkedIn.
copy the link and put it in the chat for us?
Yeah,
Oh, you don't have to do it now.
no, it just so happens, thinking this might happen. So how do I put it in? Oh, I can. Oh no, it's read only on LinkedIn for me. I'll put it in afterwards.
Yeah, put it in afterwards. We'd love to hear that because I know you've recorded a few. You've recorded a few together. So this is Flash Company. Love the guitar on this. Hello, John. Pick up yourself a flagon of ale and join us in the tavern around the fire.
I love Thomas and then I love John. Then I loved William, he's a clever young man, with his white cotton stockings and his long ankle shoes, and he wears a blue jacket wherever he goes. So it's tie a yellow handkerchief in remembrance of me, wear it around your neck, my love, in Flash Company. Flash Company, me boys, like so many more. If it hadn't been for Flash Company, I'd never have been so poor. Oh, it's fiddling and dancing, they were all my delight. Keeping Flash Company, it has ruined me quite. It has ruined me quite, me boys, like a great many more. If it hadn't been for Flash Company, I'd never have been so poor. So it's tie a yellow handkerchief in remembrance of me, wear it around your neck, my love, in Flash Company. Flash Company, me.
You are loving this, aren't you?
I've not listened to the album for ages, actually.
Yeah.
So this is a joy. Yeah.
It's lovely, yeah.
I'd never have been so poor. Oh, it's once I had a collar, I was red as the rose. Now I'm as pale as the lily that grows, like a flower in the garden of the color has gone. Don't you see what I have come to by loving such a one?
So that was track number 3, Flash Company. Quite upbeat, a little bit jaunty, about a jaunty chap.
Yes. In contrast.
In contrast to so when I said earlier that I wasn't into folk music and all of that, there are parts like these first 3, terrific, absolutely great, musically great. I really struggle with number 2, Top Seam. I really struggle with it because I'm not there yet with folk music, right? So when I put this on, it's the kind of thing that when I'm wandering around in a natural history museum with a headset on, and I've come across the boat that they've rescued from you should let Adam.
Thanks, Mark.
You're on. You're a winner. This is the kind of song that's playing, and I'm like, I wish they would just stop doing this so I can read the plaque. This is number 2, Top Seam. Have you got some facts?
No. I was just exactly that. You know, it's all about the story here. But actually, having said that, obviously she sings this a cappella, and this is a staggering achievement, I think, to sing without any accompaniment. This song.
Okay then. All right then. Okay, this is number 2, Top Seam.
As I was out a walking one evening in spring, I overheard a collier so mournfully did sing. I stopped to listen for a while to what he had to say, and I never shall forget his words until me dying day. Now I was born here in this town, I lived here all my life. I had 3 fine young children, likewise a loving wife, and my father he was a collier, and so I followed him down and I worked the number 2 top seam right underneath the town. All the houses in our street, they had cracks in every wall, and people always used to say, someday they all would fall. And sometimes in the dead of night, disturbing every dream, you could hear the blast from every shot in the number 2 top seam.
I was once in a pub once. What was that? And suddenly someone stood up to recite some poetry, then another to sing some folky ballad. I think folk music is probably meant to be performed live.
Behind us as a timber prop gave way, but it wasn't till we reached the top that the dreadful truth we found, that half the street fell 15 feet and plunged into the ground.
I'm trying to find the name of there's a what are they called? If anyone knows out there, they're from Newcastle. It's 2 ladies that sing music like this today. I thought they were called the Unwins, but they're not.
The Unthanks.
The Unthanks. The Unthanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you know them?
Not personally, no.
But do you know their music?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Yayan. Bit different to Graceland today.
In the number 2 top seam.
So that is the number 2 top seam. Just
How
on our own.
can you not listen to that and just have a tear spring in your eye?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the point. It's the fact that it's just so depressing. It's just so upsettingly depressing. I think that's what it's like. Yeah, I know it has to be depressing because it's about a very, very horrible subject, a mining disaster, right? But I think that's what it's like. Oh, it just sucks the oxygen out of me, sucks the energy out. I feel myself getting lower and lower and lower.
I totally get that, but that is the point, isn't it? The point is that when things like this have happened, whether that's people drowning in a shipping accident or something like that, what has happened is that the people who have been leaders of the country and captains of industry, their demise has always been, or their hardships have always been really well documented. And for people that are the workers, they haven't. And this is a lovely way to keep their memories alive.
Totally. And look at what happens today. If something happens, an absolute disaster happens, whether locally or a bit further afield, it makes social media, it makes the news, and then we all crack on.
Yeah.
This is, people sit down and write poetry about this and sit down and write songs about it and share them and spread them. And I do love that. I just find it so just heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy duty. Unlike the next track, number 5, Strange Affair, which I absolutely loved.
I've recorded this one as well.
Have you now?
Yeah, although a slightly different version, the version that he and June do now, rather than this one.
When I started listening to this, and I've listened to it, 5 or 6 times over the week, I started to think, imagine, I know this is completely theirs, and I know they've put their complete shine on this. Imagine Dave Gilmour standing on stage in front of Wembley with Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd could do this, right? It was very Floydy.
This is a strange affair. The time has come to travel.
British blues. Love it.
Provide for me against my dying day. Took my own provisions, but they fooled me and wasted away.
And I wish you were here.
My companion.
I'm not sure there's a market for pop disaster. And here are the cheeky girls with my
With the number 2 top seam.
Oh, where my companions? They're prisoners of death now, taken far from me. Where are the dreams I dreamed in the days of my youth?
That just washed over you there, didn't it?
Did.
When they promised me.
Which is interesting because this is a song about what do you think?
Well, if you take it from what's written in the title, it would be an affair, an illicit affair.
No, this is a song about life and Richard Thompson's conversion to Islam.
Crikey! I would never have got that.
Well, if you read the lyrics with that in mind, where are the dreams I dreamed in the days of my youth? They took me to illusion when they promised me the truth. And what the sleepers need to make them listen, why do they need more proof? This is a strange affair. Won't you give me the answer? Why is your heart so towards the one who loves you best? When the man with the answer has wakened you and warned you and called you to the test.
Wow, you'll win the lover's prize. So for me, this was the high point of this album. I really love this track. I think it's beautifully delivered, sensitively delivered. I think it's a gorgeous piece of music.
You should watch. There's a recording that June and Martin performed in a church in London to celebrate June's 25 years in music or whatever. A video of it, you can find it on YouTube, of them performing this, which is a later version of this, which is even better.
Andrew has hit on something that I was going to mention later in my notes. It reminds me, Beth Orton, I think, was listening to a lot of June at the time to get influence. I'm sure of it. This is track number 6, Heather Down the Moor.
Now, interestingly,
now you're talking.
Yeah. So this is another guitar part that I have no chance ever of playing, no matter how many hours I put into this. So Robert Burns attributed Down the Moor to a Kilmarnock girl named Jean Glover, who was not only a whore but a thief.
What?
Yeah. And she spent various time in various correction houses around the West. So this is this. When was this first found? Anyway, this is an Irish folk song, basically.
An Irish folk song.
Celtic folk song.
Serene and pleasant was the weather. Despite a lass and a very bonny lass, she was sweeping the dew from among the down the moor. And among the heather, the morn through the heather. Espied a lass and a very bonny lass, she was sweeping the dew from among the heather down the moor. Barefooted was she was comely dressed, that I had bought neither hat nor feather. She'd a bladder up neatly round her waist as she tripped through the bloom and heather down.
Any Scottish people out there, I want to go, yeah!
Through the heather.
Grip your kilt firmly by the hem.
Down the moor. I stepped up to this fair young maid. Tell me your name, come tell me the. She answered me down with the bonny burn side, and I'm proud to know of my youth together down the moor. And among the heather o'er the moor.
Hard not to tap your foot along to this one.
She answered me down with the bonny burn side, and I'm proud to know of my youth together down.
And some brilliant fretless bass on there too.
I could her that livelong day, my heart was light as any feather, until the beams of the red setting sun come a-shining.
So that was track number 6, which I really like. I think it hit a little Celtic vein there and got me imagining burling around a ceilidh.
Hey, I was going to say a Keeley. This is a Keeley.
A Kaylee.
Hey.
The next track is Joe Peel.
Yeah, so this, I mean, when you think that the number 2 top scene was a bit miserable, this is particularly miserable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
About somebody who develops cancer from having spent too long down the mine, and how, despite the fact that he's had cancer, and what's the line here? For 30 years from dusk till dawn, from dawn till evening, until the coal had left its mark, a few years on top, the dust had earned him, but not many years, because he develops cancer, and he's very ill as a result of that. And despite the fact he's very ill, he's still being really helpful to other people and asking them what he could do for them.
Yeah, so we'll write a song about you, Joe, to commemorate you.
Working where when lads left school, 'twas just the pit and foundry beckoned. Young Joe went down to hew the coal, but not for long, so some folks reckon. But Joe could tackle hard and Joe could run, he only needed time for growing. And soon he'd signed his name to play, and to the city moved away.
Quite cheerful, isn't it? He's going to be a rugby star, so he's moved to the city.
Lovely.
Doesn't last long though, does it?
No.
The idol of the local lasses, out on the field he played it fair.
So there's something I'm learning about this album. When Eric listens to this in isolation while he's working, a lot of it didn't really sit. So there's maybe something about the term folk music, right? I'm enjoying it way more in company.
Do you know, I'm not sure that that's folk music, you see. I think that's me. So I found that even albums that we've reviewed that I haven't particularly enjoyed, when we've come on here and you've told me about the album, I've gone,
yeah, and I'm finding that here. I'm not reversing my decision. I'm learning, right? I'm enjoying this much more, talking about it and with other people and learning about it. And maybe that's the whole thing, because this was meant to bring people together to listen, right?
Yeah.
Love it.
Some
Love it.
years on top, the dust had earned him.
Poor old Joe. We'll let him go. We'll let him fade away. That's a tribute to Joe. The next one is a bit of a treat, especially if you're linguistically blessed. Le Roi Renaud. A little bit of French.
Indeed. So a rough translation will give you an idea of what this is about. Our King Renaud came back from the war. From his guts streamed floods of gore. His mother on the castle wall saw her son approach the hall. It's another cheery little ditty.
But the guitar.
She's got a beautiful French accent as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, she has.
Le roi Renaud de guerre vint, tenant ses tripes entre.
A Parisian French accent.
Sa mère était sur le créneau, qui vit venir son fils Renaud. Renaud, Renaud, réjouis-toi, ta femme est accouchée d'un roi. Ni de ma femme, ni de mon fils, je ne saurais me réjouir. Allez, ma mère, partez devant, faites-moi faire un bon lit blanc. Guerre des temps très, à la minuit trépasserait. Mais faites-le-moi faire ici-bas, que la couchée n'entende pas. Or quand se va sur la minuit, le roi Renaud rendit l'esprit.
I was trying to find out if she lived in France for a while, because that's not O-level French.
No. But it is worth bearing in mind that she was at Oxford. She may well have been studying modern languages.
Indeed. So that is Le Roi Renaud. The next track, the penultimate track, is Riding Down to Portsmouth.
Now, this is quite a jolly little number. I particularly, and this always makes me laugh. It's a song about a guy who's travelling to Portsmouth, sees a pretty young lass and wants her to come with him. And in verse 2, he says, "Oh, we lay all night in the farmer's barn, and she robbed me of my silk, of my gold watch and my purse, and she gave to me 10 times what it was worth. Oh, I was on my way down to Portsmouth." And I love that sort of funny old English kind of. Another a cappella one,
another a cappella one. Here we go. This is Riding Down to Portsmouth.
As I was riding along in the night of my glory, as I was riding along, shall I tell you my story? Oh, I fell in love with a fair pretty maid, and I asked her to come along with me to see some pleasures and some fine company. Oh, I was on my way out to Portsmouth. She said, "Young man, if I come along with you, oh, it's I must be carried." She said, "Young man, if I come along with you, oh, it's I must be married." Oh, we lay all night in the farmer's barn, and she robbed me of me gold watch and me purse, and she gave to me 10 times what it was worth. Oh, I was on my way out to Portsmouth.
Not an easy song to sing. Very complicated.
Yeah.
I paid for my learnings, I says, damn, oh, damn it to myself, and I paid for my teachings. Now me all the summers put him right and pond, and it's back unto the sea I must return. Oh, don't you think so lazel underneath the curse? So I was on my way out to Portsmouth.
It's like a tongue twister.
Yeah.
I wonder if she's got some sort of like metronome or something, because that could easily go wrong. That's trying to sing.
Well, I'm amazed that, I mean, clearly she has perfect pitch, because she doesn't drift off the middle of the note, no matter how long the a cappella passage she's singing.
We're at the last track, and I really loved this track. So as we're going to play this, for those who haven't listened to it, or those that have listened to it, what does it remind you of in modern terms? Sounds like a Christine McVie song to me.
Yes.
Fleetwood Mac could have covered this easily, and it could have fitted into the Fleetwood Mac repertoire. This is a lovely song. This is Unicorns, the last track on A Cut Above.
Traveling north to sing and play to friends that we'd never met.
Oh, that's because someone's called me.
Ah,
sorry about that. My son just called me. All we need now is Stevie. Someone call me. In the background.
Traveling north to sing and play to friends that we'd never met.
I have to check that out.
Been working hard and didn't speak. Skies were grey and threatened wet. Then I dreamed that I saw unicorns. Dreamed I saw them wild and wide. Their restless beauty lit the world like a star will light a winter's night.
Isn't that a beautiful lyric? Their sudden beauty lit the world like a star would light a winter's night.
They danced and pranced and cried aloud, bright as rainbows round the stars. Their eyes were soft and sad and proud, and I wept for the wild and dirty world to which this beauty now was lost.
So I approached this week with some trepidation because I'm not a big folk fan. But what I found on this album was amazing storytelling, brilliant musicality. The strong a cappella folk ones, when listening in isolation, didn't really work. But as I said, I'm genuinely saying that listening here with friends in a nice environment kind of makes more sense. So
I'm genuinely sorry that you didn't. Yeah, I'm genuinely sorry that you didn't go. Oh my god! Now I understand what the world is all about.
it's. Do you know what? It's not over. I think this book has now appeared on the desk, and it might be flicked through. And I think I need some more education, and I think possibly I might ask for more research material from you.
Fine. Well, I would love to try to take you on that journey, because I certainly found. So I was a great one for mocking folk music when I was young.
Mm.
You know, because I obviously studied classical music and was exposed to pop music all the time, and folk music was the very worst of what I saw music as being, because it was unpracticed, unrefined, unrehearsed, and lacking in polish.
Yeah.
And because this is so polished, it bridges the gap between normal folk music. Because, you know, when you go to a folk club, it's like sometimes people stand up to perform and it's like they've never played the instrument before. And it's a shocking experience.
Shocking experience, yeah. So thank you for bringing it to the table as always. There's no genre. Well, there probably are genres. We're not going to do a drill week. That's for sure. We ain't going to do drill. Thank you for bringing that to the table. And you know, it's always a pleasure being a music fan. Being asked to listen to something you've never listened to before or never heard before, it's always a treat. It's like opening a little present, right? There were high points in here. There were parts that I didn't really understand, but that's on me, not on the album.
Yeah, but all of this is a journey, isn't it? You know, and it's like, you know, my bête noire was obviously OK Computer. Yeah. And everybody on the planet except me seems to think it's the most pivotal pop music album that's ever been produced. So, yeah, either I can say everyone else is wrong, or I can be realistic about it and recognise that actually this is about gaps in my knowledge and understanding.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, I don't think... No, actually, I wouldn't say that. We have reviewed a couple of albums that have just been meh. And actually, OK Computer, the fact that I had such a strong reaction to it means that it's doing something.
Exactly.
You know,
it's scraping something.
Yeah, and you know, we've reviewed albums where we've just gone, yeah, it's really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
it does nothing. That's not what art is there to do in any of its forms, is it?
Correct. So, based on that, I was thinking about Jeff Beck. Thank you, Eric. We're going to do Jeff Beck at some point, but I've been listening to in between this album and reviewing this album. I've been listening to another album from my youth.
Right.
So this album means so much to you. I wanted to present the community that is that album with an album that is actually
means so much to you.
Yes. This album, actually, right now, I'm getting a shiver down my spine that we're going to review this album. This album means that much to me, but I don't want that to sway you in any way. I'll give you some clues. This is the 5th studio album by this band. It was released on August the 12th, 1991 on Elektra Records. 5 singles came off it. This album was pivotal for this band because it was a huge, risky change in direction from...
So are they a Scottish band?
No.
Are they a British band?
No.
They're an American band?
They are.
Okay.
It took them from cult underground, being sort of lost in the weeds of a very similar genre. This album, they changed direction quite a bit, still remaining true to their roots. And this rocketed them from cult underground to global superstardom. This became the band's best-selling album. It debuted at number 1 in 10 countries and spent 4 consecutive weeks on the Billboard at the top of the Billboard 200, making it their first album to top the charts. It's one of the best-selling albums worldwide, and it's also one of the best-selling albums in the United States since they started using SoundScan to track it beginning. The album was certified 16 times platinum by the Record Industry Association and has sold over 20 million copies in the United States alone, being the first album since SoundScan started ever to do that. In 2020, it was Rolling Stone's 235 on the 500 greatest albums of all time. And in December 2019, this album became the 4th release in American history to enter the 550-week milestone in the Billboard 200, making it second only to Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. It is black. I've got a shiver. It's commonly known as the Black Album. It is Metallica by Metallica.
Right.
And I've been listening to this since this came out in 1991. I think I destroyed 6 sets of speakers listening to this. It's not just. So I'm going to urge anyone who's like, oh God, Metallica. This is I don't know what to say. This it makes me excited knowing that we're going to play this next week. Even though I've played it since 1991 constantly.
I don't know much about Metallica. I'm familiar with some of their songs, obviously, but I'm not. I'm not a Metallica fan. I've not delved into Metallica, so I'm genuinely excited about giving this a try.
So this was the album where they decided to make music for people rather than just making music for define a genre of a new, some would say a more poppier version, because they were a hardcore thrash metal band. 4 albums worth that didn't do much, and then suddenly they decide to change direction. Listen for classical music cues. Listen to the guitar playing. Acoustic and the only black album is I guess. Yeah.
No, the only black album is the Prince, the Black Album.
Yeah, okay, we can have arguments about the Black Album. It's commonly known as the Black Album because of the black front, but actually when you look at the front and look at it properly, there's a snake spiraling up in there, and there's actually, we're off to Neverland. This for me is the blood in my veins. This is when you pressure wash away. I love dance music. I love alternative music. I love new age music, and I love indie music. But if you were to pressure wash me down to bare bones, this is probably me on a plate.
Okay.
So, but don't let that influence you. I haven't let your love of this album influence. This is a proper, honest review, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait to do this. So I'm really looking forward to it, mate. Thank you for choosing.
Fantastic. Loved this week's show. Thank you so much for bringing it to the table. And thanks for all the lovely interaction from all of our lovely community.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much indeed. Have a lovely weekend, guys.